Going to be going over some logic today. So we have a folder inside of the workspace, and this folder is called lights. And inside of this lights folder, we have all these other folders, these parts. More specifically though, what we want is our light sources. We have two different types of light sources. We have a surface light and a point light. So what we want to do is we also have this proximity prompt that's just in this part right here. And we want every time a player to engage with that proximity prompt, we want our lights to go on and off. So what I'm going to show you is, because these lights are, all scattered out through this folder, they're not a direct child of the folder. So I'm going to show you how we can get these light sources in just a few lines of code. But let's start off with creating our lights folder as a variable. So lights folder equals workspace wait for child lights. So why we're doing this is sometimes when we play a game, we'll have scripts run before objects are loaded inside the workspace. That's going to cause a bug. And so that's why we're doing wait for child. We're just waiting for lights to exist before we run the script. So the first function we're going to do is we're just going to do lights on and off. All this function is going to do, we're going to pass in lights. All this function is going to do is it's just going to enable or disable our surface lights or our point lights. So lights.enabled equals not lights.enabled. Now we're going to create a search function. So function search for lights. At the top, we're going to create a table. So search table equals just a blank table. And then we're going to create a variable, and we're going to say descendants of lights folder equals lights. So lights folder get descendants. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have a for loop. So for v in pairs, or we'll do child. So for child in pairs, descendants of lights folder do. We're going to have some logic here. So child is a so really what we're doing though is get descendants. I didn't even explain that. So get descendants is going to get everything in the lights folder. It's going to go through everything. It's not just going to get the children, right? It's going to get the children and the children of the children and so on. And that's what that's going to do right there. So yeah. And now we're going to do child is a light. And so we're going to say that's equal to child is a point light. So what this is a, okay, is a, basically it's going to say if this is a, and we're going by class name. We're going by class name when we use is a. So if the child is a point light, and if we wanted to say if the child is a part, we would do part. And as you can see, we can do mesh and all this other stuff that it has listed for you to list as a class name. But we want point light because our source lights, our lights in our game are point light or surface light. Forgot what the other one is. Child is a surface light. Spotlight, that's the other one, spotlight. So that's what this is. So child, this is just our logic, okay? Because we're about to go into an if statement. So child is a light. So now we can do if child is a light, then, and now here's what we're going to do. We're going to say table.insert. We're going to pass in our search table, and then we're going to pass in our child. All right. And so what this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, we're going through the descendants of lights folder, all right? And now we're saying if it's a point light or it's a surface light, we're going to insert the object into this search table. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to return search table. So let me go ahead and do a print first. Print search table. Let me do a print first so you can see what it is. Oh, I have to call it. All right, so let's call it real quick. Search for lights. And then now you see we have a table that's getting printed, and the only thing in our table is our 4 lights. We have our 2 surface lights and our 2 point lights. So now we have our search function working, and we can go on and create the last function. This is just going to be called init for initialize. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to create our lights variable. So local search for lights, or local lights equals search for lights. So now we have our table. And then what we're going to do is do another for loop in pairs lights. We're passing in our table right now that we're getting. So for blank child in pairs lights, we're passing in our lights. So now it's going through our table. So we have this return a value for us, which is our table. It's returning a table for us. Okay, so now we're making this in this function, we're making this a variable. So now we're basically just grabbing that table. Okay, we're using our search function to get the table real quick so we can have our table in this initialize function. And what we're doing is we're saying, we're basically saying now for every part of that table, okay, for every value of that table, this is what we're going to do. And we're just going to call our lights on and off function. So lights on and off, and then we're just going to pass in child. Or we could just do children because it's multiple. All right, and then so yeah. And now we have to get our proximity prompt. So this is the last bit. We're gonna have to get our proximity prompt. So it's in our light switch. So we could just do local light switch equals workspace find first child light switch, and then we can do we can just do it over here at the bottom here. We can just do light switch dot proximity prompt dot triggered connect init. So we basically got our light switch, our proximity prompt, and we'll just make it more clean. Prox prompt equals light switch find first child proximity prompt. Let me see if I'm spelling proximity right. Alright, so we have our prox prompt now. So now what we can do is prox prompt.triggered connect init, our init function. So let's see how this works. And there you have it. We are turning off all of our lights and on and off just by interacting with this proximity prompt.